Mr. Imtiaz Gul, Executive Director, Center for Research and Security Studies, Dr. Nazir Gilani, and other participants of the webinar. I want to thank Mr. Imtiaz Gul for organizing this timely webinar, focusing on the most serious crisis in the Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir right now. As we all know, on August the 5th, 2019, India invaded and reoccupied IOJK and laid siege to the occupied territory. Today is the 533rd day of that colonial chokehold on the people of the occupied territory of Jammu and Kashmir. In the meantime, India has illegally divided the state into two parts and annexed it to the Indian Federation against the wishes of the people of Jammu and Kashmir and without their consent. The Indian forces and the occupation authorities have been systematically killing, torturing, forcibly disappearing, and incarcerating people in the occupied territory. They target and kill young men, and thousands of political activists are in concentration camps. Rape and sexual violence against women have been weaponized to punish the entire nation of Jammu and Kashmir in order to deter them from demanding freedom and self-determination. But the biggest crime the occupation forces and authorities have been committing in this past year is systematic but totally illegal demographic changes in the occupied territory. Since April last year, more than 2 million Hindus from India have been imported and transferred to the occupied territory. This too is against the wishes of the people. The Indian leaders have made it clear that they would increase this number to more than 5 million in a very short period of time. The international humanitarian law and norms of customary international law applicable to this crime are very clear. The Fourth Geneva Convention prohibits deportation or transfer of a state's own population in a territory it occupies. This exercise by India also constitutes a breach of Additional Protocol 1. The Statute of International Criminal Court says that such transfers, direct or indirect, constitute a war crimes. Several resolutions of the United Nations Security Council, UN General Assembly, and UN Human Rights Commission declare such illegal transfers and implantation of settlers and settlements unlawful, and that the state undertaking such an exercise, as well as individuals taking decisions on its behalf, will have criminal responsibility. The applicable law for the illegal demographic changes in the Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir are absolutely clear. But if one just reads Article 2 of the 1948 Genocide Convention, one recognizes that crimes of genocide mentioned in it depict the situation in the Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Article 2 defines genocide as any of the acts committed with the intent to destroy in whole or part a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group, including acts to kill members of the group and deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. That is what is happening in the Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. The majority of the people of the disputed state are Muslims who aspire to decide their political future by exercising their right to self-determination. India has chosen to crush their aspirations, crush the aspirations of the entire Kashmiri nation. It is now in the process of changing the Kashmiri nation itself. India is altering the occupied territory to a Hindu Rashtra. This is unacceptable. The people of Jammu and Kashmir have vowed they would not let this happen. The world is aware of the heinous, punishable crimes the BJP RSS regime is committing in the Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. India's crimes against humanity have been highlighted by the world media, influential parliaments, and civil society organizations. The irony is that despite this overwhelming evidence, world's most powerful nations, who present themselves as custodians of human rights law, have not moved, and they have no intention to move. That is the most daunting challenge that the people of Jammu and Kashmir in Pakistan are facing today. We have garnered some support in the Organization of Islamic Cooperation and made some success in attracting the attention of the United Nations Security Council. But besides issuing carefully crafted statements, the decision makers in the international community have not moved with speed to address the most serious human rights and humanitarian crisis on earth today in the territory of Jammu and Kashmir. The crimes by Indian occupation authorities are continuing unabated as we speak. Demographic changes are being used to vaporizing the old state and make a new one. We too should move out of closed room meetings and diplomatic chambers, because the crimes being committed in Kashmir are crimes against humanity. I believe that the Kashmir movement has to be turned into an international civil rights movement to get Kashmiris out of this living inferno. It has to be a people's movement at the global level. The international community is fully aware of the crimes being committed by India in the occupied territory, and yet it chooses to look the other way. This is complicity. This is dereliction of legal obligations. Let's activate the political pincer worldwide with the participation of diaspora community and international civil society to demand justice for Kashmiris. I'm afraid there are no shortcuts. I wish you a successful webinar.